Hello there, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the ZUCast. My name's Alex.
And I am Eden. You might know me as Eslo Spirit, though.
Yes, and you just know me as Alex. You just know me as Alex because I have one name. But welcome to episode 2. I hope you enjoyed the first episode. We've got some fun stuff planned for tonight. So we've got a little thing on theorizing. And what is theorizing? That's some good questions out there today.
Yeah, and that segment is actually presented by two veterans of the ZUCast. They weren't around last episode, but they were around a bajillion years ago. It's your one and only man of world, Hombre de Mundo, and his theorizing guru, Humulos. After that, Anne, or the Zelda Anne, will be presenting the first ever ZU Updates segment, and she'll tell you a little bit about the content that the Zelda Universe site has been producing.
Yeah, because we've got quite a lot of it. And then following that, our lovely host of last episode, Amanda, takes a little bit of time to talk about why Clocktown, specifically the music of Clocktown from Majora's Mask, is one of her favorite music tracks of all time.
Yes, and I have to agree with that. Anyway, but more on that later.
Yes, we'll talk later.
After that, Hebron returns with another musical analysis, this time taking a look at some of the boss battle themes from across the series and ranking them.
Which is hard to do, but
it really is.
We gotta try.
They're all so good.
Facts. After that, Realm, one of our lovely community members here at ZU, will be going through some community news, talking about some cool things that are going on in the forums and all of that. And then, following that, we, your lovely hosts for today, will be talking some ZU by the numbers, talking about some super cool things that are going on with some of our polls throughout the community.
Specifically, one poll that was administered by Realm.
But there's also some other topics that are a part of there too, which we'll talk about.
True. And after that, we have an extended roundtable discussion hosted by Emperor P, or Peyton, about was Twilight Princess good or bad? It's very black and white.
Very much. And I will say this, Twilight Princess, what it definitely is, good or bad, is a Wii game.
That is, I think, also a topic of their discussion.
Yep. So, stay tuned for that, friends. And then we'll go through a little bit of feedback at the very end. And we'll read some of your feedback that you sent us.
Yep. And then we'll wrap it up and say goodbye.
And then shell out our social medias and tell you to listen.
Of course.
So, without further ado, let us bring out our man of world and his pal Humulos and talk about theorizing. And moreover, what is theorizing?
And what is it like today after the release of Hyrule Historia?
Bring them out.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Hombre de Mundo, your one and only man of world.
And I'm Humulos, your one and only man of, I don't know.
That makes sense. So, we haven't been on a Zelda Universe podcast in forever, but we're gonna do a little guest segments here, and we're gonna talk about our old-time favorite topic, Zelda timeline theorizing, or theorizing in general, I guess, and how it's kind of changed over the years. Now, overall, the order in which these games took place, it was mostly clear. There were some elements that didn't quite fit, and so with the rising popularity of message boards and forums, fans began to discuss and debate the exact placement of every game in the Zelda timeline.
And it was a lot of fun, because, we all really liked these games. Each new game brought along with it a new puzzle to solve outside of it. And it was a great time to try and figure it out.
But the developers, they kept making references to timelines and timeline placements, and they even went as far as saying that there is actually an official document, a master timeline, where it's all laid out. So in the minds of the developers, there is a true master timeline, and we just have to figure it out. We assumed that this mysterious master timeline would be forever kept in secret, forever hidden from public view. And that was kind of the fun of theorizing, at least for me, knowing that there is a true timeline out there. We just have to be smart enough, and maybe we can figure it out. Now, of course, that all changed when Hyrule Historia was published, and they just put the timeline in there, and that was that was special, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. My favorite thing about it was that it first revealed that everyone was wrong. Like, no one had the timeline right, because apparently those of you that sucked at Ocarina of Time caused a third timeline branch to appear. And pretty much no one assumed that would be a thing. We hadn't taken time to determine, okay, well, maybe if we die in this fight instead of win, that causes another timeline. Because that could mean there's like 5 million timelines in the Zelda Universe that all result from losing.
Yeah, I remember when some people were really upset when this document was released, and they said, well, here, let me make an actual timeline. And they had, if Link dies in this game, then this happens. Link dies in that game, then that happens. Yeah, it got pretty ridiculous. But I mean, for me, I kind of liked it because it was a very clever way, or some would say kind of stupid, but I would say it's a clever. Yeah, I would say it was a clever way to piece the games together, because what you need to understand is that up until this point there were certain parts of the timeline that were set in stone. So you had, Ocarina of Time comes before Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. Like, there's no debate. Zelda 1, Zelda 2, no debate. Minish Cap, Four Swords Adventures, no debate, that's obvious. It's more about how all these sections interlaced. And so one of the key issues that people had was, where do we place A Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda, and Link's Awakening, and then the Game Boy games as well. Where do those ones fit in relation to everything else? And also, one other thing was, where do the Four Swords story games fit into relation to everything else?
And they tried to handle that the best they could. There were some problems still with the timeline, like some things didn't quite make sense, like including Four Swords Adventures after Twilight Princess.
That one is weird.
It's like, this game that's like absolutely a direct sequel to Four Swords and takes so many elements from A Link to the Past. Yeah, it's not on the same timeline as either one of those. But, whatever. Overall, though, it was an exciting time, but it did cause many of us to stop trying to solve the timeline puzzle, because what was the point anymore? We had already been given everything, and it was no longer a matter of us trying to piece everything together. It was just a matter of, showing people this document when they asked timeline questions instead.
It also answered a lot of other questions, because when you debate timeline theorizing, you constantly have to deal with things that aren't going to match up. So, for instance, does Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess match up perfectly? No, there are some inconsistencies between them. Likewise, Ocarina of Time and Link to the Past, some inconsistencies. And it's always been kind of a puzzle figuring out, okay, which of these inconsistencies matter and which can we kind of overlook. And once the timeline got revealed, we kind of got those answers. And now, going forward, it just kind of becomes a thing of, okay, which things can we disregard and which things can we not disregard? And one thing that A Link Between Worlds, for instance, introduced was retcons are a thing now. Ganon was not destroyed at the end of A Link to the Past. And so, yeah, going forward, when we're going to place games such as Breath of the Wild, for instance, how are we going to approach that? Because the game is so full of references, we just kind of have to... It's more or less a guessing game. of where to place it in the timeline. You have some, I guess, key things that can seem more important than others, but really at this point, who kind of knows?
Yeah, I think I was pretty frustrated when I first started playing A Link Between Worlds, and it talked about the backstory, and I'm like, oh cool, this is going to show the story of A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
And then it talks about, oh, Zelda along with the 7 sages, and I'm like, hold on, what? There were only 7 sages. It wasn't Zelda and the 7 sages. It was 7 sages including Zelda. And then the Triforce was split up, apparently, at the end, even though we clearly see Link going and touching the entire completed Triforce. And it was clear that some plot elements were being, at the very least, ignored, or, like you said, they very well could just be retconned altogether.
Yep.
The only way that wouldn't work out is if there was, like, another game between A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds, but I don't know. That's it was very confusing to see that kind of big change happen when this was supposed to be like a direct sequel to Link to the Past. It's even called Triforce of the Gods 2 in Japan.
Right.
But it's still very different. So
Right. And so that has a detrimental effect to timeline theorizing. Because now, if retconning's a thing, there's no way that you can for sure say this thing that happened actually happened. In the minds of the developers, at least.
And it's especially true because we know that even the developers at this point don't have a true final timeline. Because here's the thing, that timeline that came out with Hyrule Historia, it's been changed since then. It specifically got changed just before Breath of the Wild came out in the Zelda Encyclopedia. They printed a new version of it, and in that new version, it switched around Link's Awakening and the Oracle games. And that doesn't sound like a huge big deal, but it does show something. It shows that these games, the way they're placing them, there's not truly a set final place for them to be. And they even say that right in the book. They, in Hyrule Historia, one of the quotes that happens directly before the timeline says, "This chronicle merely collects information that is believed to be true at this time." They're kind of giving themselves an out to where if they decide later on, oh no, this goes over here, not over here, they're just saying, well, it's because it's legends, it's just a series of legends. And so it kind of makes it almost true what some people were saying, that there was never truly an actual timeline document, which I won't go as far as saying that myself, but it certainly does make placements mean less than they did.
Yeah, it's more of a living document. I'm guessing that I think that they probably have a document like they say they do, but that this document isn't set in stone, and that is very much in line with how Nintendo operates and how they make their games. What's true now might not be true in 5 years or 10 years.
And I think the biggest thing overall that has made me just be like, okay, there's no need to timeline theorize anymore, is recent events having to do with Breath of the Wild. And those of you who were very into it before it released, we were going crazy with trying to figure out where Breath of the Wild was placed. And we were seeing a lot of things from a lot of different games. We were seeing Koroks, we were seeing the Bridge of Eldin, we were seeing goddess statues, things that were never in the same timelines before, that were suddenly all together, and we're like, where on earth could this be? Then the game came out, and a lot of us, we started playing it, we got to the first, one of the first major cutscenes, and we're like, oh, okay, this is obvious. It takes place in the child timeline. This is absolutely where it is, because this quote directly referenced it. It's a major story quote. It's got a lot of the same architecture, so that helps back it up. There's everything else probably just a reference, but it wasn't quite that simple, unfortunately. You have to figure out which things do you believe are canonical and which things do you believe are just references, because when talking about Rudo, for example, this was a major sticking point for a lot of people.
Yep.
They said, well, Rudo was a sage, which is true. In one of the side quests in Breath of the Wild, it directly references Rudo being a sage. But, well, here's the thing. You could say, well, maybe that's because it was a side quest, and the side quest stuff doesn't matter as much, or maybe You could say, well, Ruto became a sage in both timelines, which that's also feasible. But if you start going that route, if you start trying to use all the information, you're going to get conflicts. Because, okay, let's say Ruto being a sage was super important, and that only happened in the adult timeline. Well, what about the Twilight appearing? This quote that Zelda says talks about the sword going through Twilight. That only happened in the child timeline. The thing that really surprised me, though, was that, so we're debating all this and everything, and we've been getting a lot of feedback from Nintendo on timeline placement ever since Hyrule Historia came out. Like, on Twitter, they just literally just went out and posted the timeline as it concerns to A Link Between Worlds and said, this is exactly where A Link Between Worlds takes place. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now Triforce Heroes is coming out. Boom. Another tweet saying, this takes place right after A Link Between Worlds. Yeah. They started being a lot more transparent with timeline placements, which took a little bit of the fun out, honestly, but also was like, oh, that's neat to see that the debates we have can get cleared up. Although in the case of A Link Between Worlds, it happened a day before it released. So that was rude, but whatever. Breath of the Wild, they waited way longer. They didn't reveal its timeline placement until just a few months ago, so over a year after it was released. And so we finally got to see exactly where it happened, except not really, because they just placed it at the end of the timeline. Not the end of the child time, not the end of the adult timeline, the end of the timeline. And it's really hard to say what that actually means. I don't believe it's like a merged timeline, because first of all, that was my idea. Thank you very much. Back in 2007, I was the one who said the timelines merge. But I don't think that's even what this is. I don't think this is a merged timeline. I think it's just them, like, just saying, like, oh, okay, so this is like a game that's a love letter to all the other games and just includes elements from them, and so we just kind of throws it at the end there. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, to me, that just sounded like, hey, this game is here too, but it's not connected. And maybe that's starting something new. It could be that they are looking to say, hey, all the old games, old timeline, done. With Breath of the Wild, we're going to start something new. We're going to start a new timeline, which is probably going to be much simpler. and this is the first game.
So you would almost call this a reboot then?
I would say it's a soft reboot. That previous games in the timeline has happened, but not in any tangible way, if you get what I mean.
Not in a way that made it just outright not fit into certain timelines. In this case, right. They really had to go outside the timeline.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, it's hard to say. Like they're connected, but they're not directly connected.
Right. It's more so like they just looked at the other games and they looked at really what made those games good and fun and what elements they thought were neat from those games. So they're like, okay, Rito and Korok from the adult timeline. Those are really cool races. Let's go ahead and include them. Lionels from the Downfall timeline are the best enemies in the entire game. So let's include those. Yep. And they just kind of did that with a lot of different things. They just kind of took the best elements out of the whole series and put them together. And it was awesome. And you can see that they're really not trying to fit in exactly with Zelda lore, because you can even look at something like the Triforce. And from the very beginning, we knew what the Triforce was. In A Link to the Past, it's like, okay, if you get the Triforce, you get a wish, and it does whatever you want. It's like, okay, cool. That's not what the Triforce did in Breath of the Wild.
I don't even know if the Triforce was an actual thing in Breath of the Wild.
That's the thing, is we don't. It's very clear they were invoking the symbolism of the Triforce with Zelda's magic, but it wasn't an all-powerful relic. It was the royal family's magic. And so it's clear they're not truly trying to fit in with the rest of this series.
They're taking things like going back to Skyward Sword. I mean, they're talking about the goddess and the royal family bloodline. These are important elements in Breath of the Wild, as they were in Skyward Sword. But and that's why I'm saying it's not really connected in a tangible way, because the time between those two is so vast, and the goddess and those the little statuettes or whatever, they were never in any of those other games. So you have elements, and you say, hey, things from Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time, they happened, but you can't draw a line from point A to point B. That and that's that doesn't make logical sense. but this is fiction. So we're saying, like, hey, yeah, those things happened, but we can't trace it back.
And the funny thing is that we've kind of known this is how it was for a long time now. I forget who it was exactly, but one of the major developers shared their creative process when it came to Zelda. Mm-hmm. They said, essentially, they make the game first, they make the gameplay, then they make the story, and then after it's completed, that's when they place in the timeline. So they're not limiting themselves to working with the timeline when making these games. That's only something that occurs as more of an afterthought. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Breath of the Wild wasn't preoccupied with fitting nicely into the timeline, honestly, I think that made it a better game. I thought there were a lot of great things that it did that were better because it wasn't trying to say, okay, well, we can only include this or we can only include that. It was willing to include everything, and that was awesome. But what's that mean about the future of timeline theorizing?
I do think that there's gonna be game. I mean, here's the thing: Breath of the Wild was a success. It was a success just
monumentally.
The game was great. It was a financial success. It was a critical success. There's going to be sequels, not necessarily direct sequels, but there's going to be games that are heavily drawn from Breath of the Wild, and it's gonna reference Breath of the Wild. And I really do think that it's going to be the start of a new kind of timeline. Probably just one that goes from A to B to C to D and doesn't split and doesn't, it's not crazy. We might see some games that kind of go back, similar to what A Link Between Worlds did. It'll go back and it'll be a direct sequel to Twilight. I still think they're going to make a Twilight Princess sequel. And one of these days they're going to do it. And that might fit in the so-called old timeline. But I really do think that the majority of the big games that we're going to see going forward is going to be on a new, separate timeline altogether, and it's going to follow or prequel Breath of the Wild.
That very well could be. I mean, for myself, I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. Like, it was fun. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun timeline theorizing, especially like 10 years ago. It was a blast.
Right, but you can also tell, when we were discussing things about where to place Breath of the Wild, we still have fun kind of talking about it and talking about the different arguments, but the treasure hunt is over.
Yeah, I mean, we found it and found out that it's a morphing piece of gold that could be whatever it wants at any moment. So it's cool, but it's not what we were looking for, and it's not something we can hold out. We can't hold out hope on finding that one true thing we were ever looking for. And because of that, it's not worrying about it anymore. I'm just going to be like, okay, game comes out, I play it. Hey, look, there's references to this other game. That was cool.
If you happen to disagree with us, definitely let us know. We are theorists after all, so it's not like we're not used to people telling us that we're wrong for whatever reasons. So, and and we don't want to come out and be just these kind of like, oh, back in the day I was into theorizing, but now I left it behind because it's lame. You know what I mean? Like we're not going to be like theorizing hipsters or something.
We still enjoy at least discussing the lore. We may not be trying to find our own timelines anymore, but we still like talking about Zelda. We still like talking about all the random stuff that happens in it.
Let us know what you think about us. Let us know if you agree with us or if you think we're dead wrong, or maybe you just think we're crazy, which might be true.
Thank you for listening to us. Enjoy the rest of the podcast, unless this is at the end, in which case, bye. But we'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you, Hombre de Mundo and Humulos, for that enlightening segment. It is great to hear from you two again after so many years.
I'm just here doing the applause. Theorizing is an interesting topic, honestly. Like, I try not to do a whole lot of theorizing, specifically with the timeline, because my canon is I want Breath of the Wild to merge over the timeline because nothing at this point makes sense.
Yeah, I like to think that Breath of the Wild doesn't actually fall on this timeline because I think that the developers really didn't give a crap.
No, but the problem is that they've also put a lot more work than they should have put in, because they've also made addendums on Twitter for where the other games fall that isn't Breath of the Wild, and it honestly does annoy me a little bit, just like, but like, you put so much work in for it, and like, I get it, you don't want to put yourself into a box, that's fine, but like, all this work.
Yeah.
And I'm not just salty because of the fact that at some point in time, considering the educational content I do on ZU, that I'm gonna have to write a timeline episode at some point for whatever I'm working on, and I am dreading those days because it is going to be a long episode with a lot of writing and a lot of editing, and it's gonna be it's gonna be rough. So going on from this, we've got a lot of stuff that we do here at Zelda Universe, but thankfully we have our pal Zelda Ann, who's going to tell you all the cool things that we've been doing, because there's a lot that's happening here for Zelda Universe, both in person, online, all over the internet superhighway of the world. Also, by the way, Zelda Ann also streams for Zelda Universe, so you should definitely go check out her streams. They're called Colors of the Wind Waker, and she does creative art streams, and they're super cool, and you should go watch. They're like at 11 a.m. Eastern time on our Twitch. So you should go check her out, and now we'll let her tell you what's new in Zelda Universe.
Welcome to ZU's Updates. I'm the Zelda Ann, or just Ann for short, and I'm here to let you know what Zelda Universe has come up to lately as a fan site. We've had a solid month of great new content, with more to come. First off, Zelda Universe has begun its worldwide convention tour with PAX Australia panel entitled Zelda Universe Presents Ocarina of Time 20 years later. Over this past year, we've done panels at PAX East, West, South, and Australia, along with more local conventions such as MomoCon, MagFest, and AvCon. We plan to continue this in 2019, so be on the lookout for a ZU panel at your nearest gaming convention. If there isn't one, let us know, and if we have staff nearby, we might just apply for a panel there too. Do you know what the most popular content on our YouTube channel is? No, it's not our Let's Play or even a soundtrack. Actually, it's our fully voiced fan dub projects. Videos such as Hyrule Warriors the Movie have more than 250,000 views on our channel. But bizarrely enough, the most popular ZU video content of all is a Kid Icarus themed dub spin-off project. Episode 1 of Hades' Misguidance already has more than 300,000 views on YouTube, and we've just released episode 9. There's a lot of great content on our YouTube channel, so check it out at youtube.com Zelda Universe TV. We also have some fantastic written content over at zeldauniverse.net. One recent feature by Maria entitled How Breath of the Wild Changed My Perspective on Video Games talks about how Breath of the Wild was her first Zelda game and how it changed how she looks at video games in general. Zach has also written a feature entitled Phantom Hourglass, Time Well Spent, which takes the time to defend Phantom Hourglass, which he believes doesn't get the credit it deserves. In addition to all of this, ZU regularly produces all kinds of content by a variety of talented fans, so go check out the website. Again, that's ZeldaUniverse.net. I'm Anne, and that's it for now. We'll see you next time here on ZU Updates, where the Triforce continually shines.
Cool. Thank you, Anne, for the lovely Zelda Universe updates. Yeah, we remember I said we had a lot? Yeah, we got a lot. The panels honestly are kind of super fun to do. I do a lot of the planning for like PAX East and whatnot. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. They're stressful. Like I'll usually spend like the first day like running around, panicking, prepping for the panel as much as I can. But we've gotten really lucky. We fill out the auditorium every time, which is really fun.
Jeez, it's a big production.
Yeah, and we usually fill out. It's pretty good. And we're now starting to do things locally because, you know, I live on the East Coast. There's some conventions over here that I'm going to start, like, maybe doing panels at. But Ocarina of Time is a really good one that's coming up now because not only is it the 20th anniversary, but the Ocarina of Time randomizer is super popular right now. Like, I stream it a lot. And so it's become very relevant this year, which is super exciting. So that'll be a really fun thing.
Yeah, if I went to conventions, I would check those out.
Yeah. And then, you know, all the cool stuff that we're doing on our YouTube channel. So we've got Hyrule Warriors, we have Hades Misguidance, we have our Ocarina of Time dub on the horizon too, which will be pretty exciting.
I auditioned twice. First time was for Wind Waker. I think I auditioned for Nico. I was like, "Oi, mate! I don't know. I can't do it anymore." But
if it makes you feel any better, I auditioned for Quill and I didn't get it, and I've also worked with the person who ended up getting that voice. So I got you. I know how you feel.
But I was really shocked because I auditioned for like 5 bajillion characters for the Hyrule Warriors.
The redub?
Yes, the redub. And I was surprised I didn't get anything because I thought my Lizalfos was amazing.
Because it was like this. Yeah.
It was like Gollum, basically, and I thought
That's
was
like
perfect.
Gollum with Donald Duck, and wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you need somebody to voice somebody who sounds like Gollum and Donald Duck.
Disney, if you ever wanted to Dark Souls, but with your characters, hit us up. We'll do it. Who are we kidding? They're too busy working with Square.
Yeah.
Disney, just hire me, please. Our lovely host from last time, and honestly, my homegirl Amanda, has a favorite song in all of Zelda that she decided to record a nice little bit about, and it is about Clocktown from Majora's Mask. And she talked a little bit about why it's her favorite piece of music in all of Zelda.
Yes. Take it away.
The Clocktown theme from Majora's Mask is one of my favorite Zelda songs. It's upbeat and happy, at least on day one, and overall just really catchy. But the song itself is meaningful and representative of the residents in Clocktown and the terrible fate that is about to befall. Allow me to explain. On the most basic level, the song gets faster each day to symbolize running out of time. But you can speed up any song to give this feeling of running out of time. What makes the Clocktown theme so poignant is how cheerful it is, almost ignorant to the tragic events. There's a concept in audio that I absolutely love, and that's when a carefree or celebratory song is playing to coincide with what should be a fun time, while a horrible event is taking place close by. One example is in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when Harry returns from the graveyard with Cedric Diggory's body, while the band is happily playing, ready to celebrate, as they are completely clueless to everything else that was going on. Another example is in the audio drama The Blood Crow Stories' SS Utopia, in which the lounge singer is performing somewhere beyond the sea, while 2 of the characters are being horribly killed just a few decks away. The effect is chilling and resonates stronger than it would if it were just ominous, dramatic music playing, because it shows that catastrophes can happen anytime, anywhere, and sometimes you'll just never even see it coming, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So in Majora's Mask, we have Clocktown. With such a fun song and the Carnival of Time in the near future, it's easy to overlook anything dark going on. Let's look at day 1. Minus the menacing moon, everything seems normal. Sure, some of the residents sense something's wrong, but most of the town is excited and prepping for the carnival. There's plenty to look forward to, so something like the apocalypse would just be rather inconvenient. By day 2 of the Clocktown theme, you start to notice something is off, but only slightly. It sounds more frantic, and it's missing that whimsical sound from day 1. But it's still such a small change that the folks of town could easily ignore it if they so chose. Even though many of the town's residents are recognizing that something very bad is going to happen. So the question regarding those who don't see it, are they truly clueless, or do they choose to ignore it? And that's what that theme really represents on day 2. Day 3 comes along, and you hear the theme and know something is very, very wrong. There's no hiding it. But at the same time, that central melody is still there. It's struggling to hold on, but it's there. Holding on to a sense of normalcy is an ongoing theme throughout the game, and that is communicated through the Clocktown theme. The moon may be about to fall, aliens invade, Kafei turns into a child, and Tingle, well, exists. But that's still not going to stop the people of Clocktown from living their life. Anju and Kafei love each other, and even though Kafei's body is now that of a child, they're getting married anyways. So as long as that clock keeps going, so will the people of Clocktown. And they will continue pushing forward until the clock stops.
Thanks for that segment, Amanda. It was nice to hear your voice again after you're not hosting now. But yeah.
Eden, I have a question for you. What is your favorite piece of music in Zelda?
That is a huge question.
I know. Do you
I
have an answer?
no.
Okay. Do you want me to answer it in the meantime?
Yes.
Okay. So, I've been playing a lot of the Ocarina of Time randomizers recently, and there's a lot of great stuff in that. So, like, obviously, Gerudo Valley is honestly an iconic theme, right?
Of course.
It's such a great piece of music, and it's always a great one to listen to, especially the covers. The covers are great. One of my favorite dungeon music, though, is actually Great Bay Temple. I love the music in that. It is actually the only thing about Great Bay Temple I actually like, because I think the dungeon is the worst in every game ever, with the exception of maybe Temple of Time and Twilight Princess, but that's something we'll talk about at a later point. But I love the music to that. The other one that I really love too, Song of Healing. Like, I did a whole thing for college. I did a whole thing about like why Majora's Mask was a big influence to me as a performance artist. Because, like, music-wise and art style-wise, it's really good. Like, as a game and everything, it's really good. But I also am a huge fan of a few songs from Breath of the Wild, like Sandworm theme and the Guardian theme. Yo, those are good. Those are good themes.
The Guardian theme stresses me out. But
See,
it's good. That's what makes it good.
It's a good stress. It's a good stress. Well, I mean, in a perspective. I also get it as a dance sort of thing, because I like the rhythm of it.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Never thought of it that way.
So, yeah, because I remember a dance perspective. That's my I have a degree in dance, but
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a thing. Have you made decisions on what you like?
Well, I like a lot of the Majora's Mask soundtrack overall, because that is one of my favorite Zelda games, solely based on the fact that it's a very emotionally deep and affecting game. And
yeah, it's a very raw sort of emotional score. Have you listened to the Terrible Fate music series. That
Yes, I love those. Theophany is so good.
Yeah, he's done some great stuff.
So there's that. I mean, that's not a particular track, although I am partial to that whole soundtrack and Twilight Princess's soundtrack, particularly Twilight Symphony by Zelda Orchestrated.
Yeah, Zero's good.
I recently re-listened to the whole thing and
I haven't listened to
basically
that yet.
cried.
In that game specifically, I love Minda's Lament, and I love Gerudo Desert in that one too. Like the Gerudo themes are like generally really solid.
Yeah,
They're good themes, bruh. It's so good. You know what the cool thing about music is that, like, especially like in the tones, like you get this really cool feeling, like especially when it's like situational, like when you're fighting bosses. And we actually just so happen to have that as our next segment. Would you like to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, if you were with us for the last episode, you might remember Gibran, who talked about the music from AOL, not to be confused with America Online. Gibran was now back to talk about music from several different Zelda games in the context of the boss battle themes, which are some of my personal favorites. I'm always a sucker for video game battle themes. They are so good, so atmospheric. And let's see what Gibran has to say and which ones he thinks are the best.
Hello everyone, I'm Gibran Jacobo, and welcome to my segment for this episode of ZUCast. Last time we discussed several tracks from Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and how they influenced the music of the following games in the series. One of these themes was the first ever boss battle theme in The Legend of Zelda, which paved the way for what a boss theme will be in the series. But what makes a good boss theme in a Zelda game? Well, in my opinion, a boss theme has to be intense, dramatic. I mean, it is a battle after all. A tense moment in which you have to put to practice what you learned in the game up to that point and your mastery of your current arsenal of items and weapons. The choice of instruments may vary from game to game, but I've noticed some patterns that remain consistent throughout the series. Loud percussions, a simple but efficient bassline, and a catchy melody in a minor scale to give that sense of despair and drama. So, with that in mind, let's check out some of my favorite boss battle themes and see what makes them so unique. First off, the boss battle theme from the Minish Cap. Despite loving this game, I wanted to get it out of the way first since it's the game I've played the least of. So I didn't want it obscuring any of my other favorites. But this theme has drama written all over its sheet music, even from its very beginning with a low piano and strings. The next thing you notice is the bassline, consisting just of one tone with a very basic rhythm, but still manages to give a perfect support to the melody, which is done by a very rich string ensemble, accompanied by eventual trumpets, which seem to be the instrument of choice for many soundtracks in the Game Boy Advance. And speaking of which, I really love that peculiar sound only achieved by the GBA sound chip. A bit crispy, but with a great quality to make the best use out of the single tiny speaker of the console. And while the percussion may not be so apparent, it has some sweet timpani accents every few bars to relieve the intensity of the theme. Next up, we have the Thunderblight Ganon theme from Breath of the Wild. I know the 4 boss battles in the game are essentially the same, except for a few differences like the melody instruments used. But this one is special to me because it is the first one I heard, when I innocently ventured into Nirvana bodies without more preparation and got my healing butt kicked, repeatedly, until I decided to explore a bit more and get stronger to show him who's boss. This time the bassline is done by the piano, which gives it a more eerie feeling, while the melody is made by strings, more piano, and what sounds like a mizmar, a Middle Eastern wind instrument, which fits perfectly with the desert setting. Again, the percussion may only be notable during accents, but if you listen closely, you can note a slight accompaniment with a darbuka, a percussive instrument also from the Middle East. And this is what I like so much about these boss themes. The instrument used greatly reflect the atmosphere of the setting, like this Arabian-like setting of the Gerudo Valley. And while on the topic of Gerudos, our favorite one, Ganondorf, also gets his own themes. And while most of the battles with Ganon or Ganondorf have very memorable themes, I want to break the mold a little by mentioning the Beast Ganon battle theme from Twilight Princess. One of the 4 final battles of the game, this one seems to be the most forgotten, and its music is no different. There is something off about this theme. All instruments seem to be playing different things on different tempos, but somehow create some kind of eerie harmony. And those voices in the background, who knows what they are saying or chanting. But it is this combination of sounds that don't seem to belong together what makes this theme so fitting for this game, which had a similar reception with its dark and creepy themes and settings. Moving on to my favorite games, the boss theme from Majora's Mask is a clear example of what I consider a great boss theme. A constant snare gives that sense of rush, with the obligatory and loud percussion for accent. The bass line is done by very low strings with a simple and repetitive rhythm. And the melody is taken mainly by the brass and wind section, which I have always found to have a very cinematic and dramatic sound. Undoubtedly, a great theme very fit for playing tag with a giant bull and hide and seek with a giant fish. And of course I had to include the boss theme from my favorite game in the series, A Link to the Past. I mentioned this theme on the previous episode and how the theme from Zelda 2 inspired this one in its simplicity. It is indeed simple, short and even repetitive, but it is a very unforgettable tune with all the elements of a great boss theme. After all, isn't repetition the base of many of the greatest boss battles in the series? You know, use your newly acquired weapon to find the boss weak spot, take it down, strike with your sword, rinse and repeat until death. That is what makes this theme my all-time favorite. Wait a minute! There is one more! How do you make the boss theme from A Link to the Past even better? You take the 16-bit instruments and replace them with a live orchestra, and add a bit more drama to the tune. It has it all: the loud percussion, the simple and repetitive bassline, the minor skull melody, all in a glorious live recording. For the first time in the series, if I'm correct. While this is more commonly known for being used in the battle against Coloctos, my favorite and definitely creepiest battle in the series, it is also used for the fight against Moldarak, which really wasn't as big of a boss as the ancient armor apparently possessed by a little girl. Now this is definitely my favorite boss battle theme in the series, and will continue to be until we have a new Zelda game, possibly with even better music, and I can't wait for it to happen. So there you have it, a little breakdown of my favorite boss battle themes in the Zelda series. I know there are many other great battle themes in the series, but I didn't want to go too long by including many more of them. They are all special in their own way, but these are the most memorable to me personally. If you want to continue the discussion about your favorite music in the Zelda series, you can follow me on Twitter at scum612. That's SKOM612. So feel free to follow me and tell me what your favorite boss battle themes are in the series. So in the meantime, thank you for listening, and I'll be here with you in the next episode.
Well, thank you so much, Hebron, for the amazing and super interesting topic of favorite boss battles. I don't know how I necessarily feel or agree with his number one pick, which is the Coloctos theme. Like, I like it. It's interesting. It's a good theme. I don't know if it would take my favorite theme. Do you have a favorite theme, Eden?
I have to say it's either... I have a few. Girahim's battle theme is definitely up there, because
Oh yeah, that one's a good one.
And I love the orchestration, but... Let me see. I like a lot of the battle themes from Breath of the Wild.
I don't remember a lot of the boss themes from Breath of the Wild.
I think it's overlooked a lot, partially because it's DLC only, but I like the final battle with at the end of the Champions Ballad, the boss battle, that one. The theme is really cool.
Oh, Maz, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, Maz Koshia.
Oh, okay. I see. I can. Okay, that sounds like a decent one for you.
It doesn't really sound like Zelda, but it sounds awesome.
I mean, it sounds Zelda-ish.
Yeah, it's got a great energy.
I mean, it's a
That's
Zelda
why I like
game.
it.
It's in a Zelda game. It's a Zelda song. So, technicalities, yeah. Honestly, my favorite, like, there's some good bosses out there, but you know what it can't hold a candle to? The Ganondorf boss fight theme from Ocarina.
Oh yeah, right. That's
Like-
the other one I was gonna mention. I love that theme too.
Yeah, because I think maybe because of the fact that I've also been playing a lot of the Ocarina of Time randomizer myself recently, but that theme is just so good. It's very intense. I think what helps is that it's in that minor key. And so there's also a bit of a patter to it, and I really, really, really love how that sounds. It's such a great track. And it's kind of like when I think of boss music, I kind of think of that one first. Second to like maybe the mini boss theme, but that's not a boss battle theme. This is a boss battle theme. So there you go.
That's true.
So, although what's even fun is if you want to call boss battles in randomizer, you can change your music. And so in my last seed of the randomizer, I had as music for bosses Kakariko Village, Ingo's Ranch for the Ganon fight, which was hilarious. And I think the other one was, it was the Zelda's Lullaby theme.
Oh, that is a terrible battle theme. I love it.
But in the same seed, it's hilarious because then all the boss battles are chill as hell. It's great. It's hilarious. Which is why everyone needs to try the randomizer, if anything, for the randomized music. Because then for all of a sudden, like, Gerudo Valley, which is a super fun music theme, just becomes the, like, trying to escape the castle theme. Or you get, like, a serious case of mood whiplash, like Zora's Domain being the racing minigame theme. Like, it is mood whiplash to the greatest extent, and it is hilarious. So you need to play that for that. The stress for the randomizer will be there too, but at least you have the music. This is the worst pitch for the randomizer ever, but hey, it's what I'm doing.
Hey, gets me interested.
Right? Hey, you know what? I've done my job.
Alright, so enough of that. Next up, we have the Zelda Universe Community News, which is hosted by Realm, short for Realm Wings, you might know, if you are a forum member. So he'll be reporting the latest happenings, the latest shindigs, the latest shenanigans on the forum community, as well as around Zelda Universe, like on our Facebook page. So take it away, Realm.
Hello everyone, I'm Realm, and this is your Zelda Universe Community News. Let's get to it. Over on the ZU forums, a new Warcraft-themed Mafia game is underway in Community Central, though it may have concluded by the time you hear this. 12 players are locked in a suspenseful, psychological thriller roleplay scenario, where one of them is responsible for murdering Timmy the town innocent child and then raising him from the dead. Each day the players vote for who they believe is the killer among them, and that person dies, regardless of guilt. Sabo is GMing this festival of undeath. Feel free to follow along as a spectator, and to check out Community Central regularly for more Mafia games in the future. November's ZUer of the month is Kolu, who joined ZU over the summer and quickly endeared herself to all she graced with her presence, particularly in her home clan of Din. Fellow Dinny Zoran hero says of Kolu, "Kolu is cool as heck, and is the latest in a spate of new or newish folks who fit in so well it's like they've always been here. She's pretty fun to talk to." Non-Dinny Ambalistico agrees, albeit in fewer words. If you're Kolu, you are these things. Very nice, chill, cool, fun to be around, best giraffe. Congratulations Kolu, and from all of us at the ZUBC, enjoy your month. If you want to ask Kolu disturbingly specific questions, post in the ZUer of the Month thread in Community Central. There was no ZUer of the Month in October. Here's a shout out to Boxes, who won the first ever ZU Community Scavenger Hunt with a walloping 68 points. Now that's dedication. And now, a piece of sad news. Beloved Nehru moderator Shell has stepped down from her role as Nehru's loving mother. Fear not, Nehrulians, as she remains active in the clan and she is still Monica's mother. That will never change. If you, like me, like to play the Legend of Zelda series, particularly Breath of the Wild, then you may be interested in knowing that some of ZU's most culinarily talented incarnations of Link are compiling a list of the best recipes in the game. Threadstarter Thunder Greatsword, who apparently now goes by God himself, highly recommends hearty simmered fruit for its default full healing effect and low ingredient cost. Couldn't agree more. Check out the best recipes thread in the Modern Zelda board. Over in the creative corner, the October writing contest is wrapped up. The theme was guilt, and first-time entrant Gregarious Tree took the crown with a haunting poem entitled The Right Hand. Congratulations, Gregarious Tree. Our spines are now sufficiently chilled. The November contest is now underway. The theme is whimsy, and entries are due by Friday, November 23rd at 11:59 p.m. EST. For more details on how to enter, look among the pinned threads in the creative corner. Along those same lines, and yet not quite the same, the Roleplay Guild section is joining forces with the Creative Corner board to host the first ever Roleplay Creative Corner tournament. This bracketless competition, which will take place throughout December, will see teams of 2 craft stories through the art of roleplaying, or RPing, as we say in the biz. It doesn't matter if you've been using your original character for 10 years, or if you don't even know how role-playing works, all are invited to participate. The best part, aside from the chance to create something magical, is the chance to win a video game of your choice on Steam worth up to $20 US. Grab a friend or jump in the random selection pool as signups close November 30th. On a more personal level, Zelda section and Community Central board mod Dark Miku Reigns and his wife are starting a bath bomb business, Birdie Bee Bath Bombs. Best alliteration ever. DMR has a thread in advertising with details on how you can get your dirty hands on their merch, including a list of all 25 plus available scents, so you should take a gander. Heh, gander, Birdie. Congratulations to Skywing for completing work on his pond, which he built from scratch. That takes a lot of time, skill, and effort, so we hope he enjoys the fruits of his labor. And now we'll take a quick detour to Facebook, where ZU's page, @Zelda Universe, recently hosted a giveaway of 2 pairs of custom leather wristbands, courtesy of Zelda art by Ven Mayak. Each silver on black wristband bears that timeless quote, "It's dangerous to go alone, take this," in an 8-bit font. If you didn't win, you can still purchase them from Ven Mayak's Etsy shop at etsy.com/VENMEHIC custom design, and follow Zelda Universe on Facebook for more giveaways. That brings us to the end of this edition of Community News. If something special has happened in your life, let us know and I'll give you a shout out on air. Just post in the Zelda Universe community announcement thread in Community Central and tag Realmwings or Eslo Spirit if you want to be featured. This is Realm, reporting to you not live from the ZUBC studio. Stick around and we'll reveal which one of us is Kira.
That was the community news with Realm.
I'll be honest, whenever I hear about Mafia going on in the forums, I'm always just like, what's going on? How do you do that in a forum? It's very interesting. I don't really go on the forums often, actually. It's kind of sad.
Well, you're missing out because we've got all of the crazy people.
I know, we do. I barely have enough time for anything.
But they're fun, crazy people, and you should make time for it because it's a blast.
I need to.
Also, every single one of you should make an account if you do not already have one, and then submit an entry to the November writing contest. I run that thing, so we had a low turnout in October, so
maybe we'll get some cool things in November. Everyone do it.
Yes, everyone, even you.
Anyway, so let's talk about some Zelda Universe by the numbers for October.
All right, so Realm gave us another random Zelda / forum related survey, and a grand total of 9 people responded this time, which is
Woo! Thank you, 9 people.
yes, I think last time there were 20, but this is an improvement.
Listen, people were like spending all of October getting their Halloween costumes on and getting their spoops on. I mean, come on. It's the spoop season. But yeah, we need more respondents. So,
I mean, from a statistical standpoint, yes, the more respondents there are, the more accurate it is, the more representative it is of the population. But
true.
that's
And surveys can be fun, right?
yeah, I love filling out surveys.
I like-
I was one of these
Yeah, there's-
respondents. I'm not telling you
Oh.
what my answers were though. Actually, yeah, sure I will.
You will after we talk about the answers.
Yeah.
One of the first questions that was part of the poll was, what game is the most underrated? And the number one answer was Minish Cap on the Game Boy Advance. Followed by Adventure of Link in 22.2%. Did Josh Lindquist do this poll? There's no other reason why why Adventure of Link would be that high.
I mean, it's 22.2%, so that means 2 people responded with that one.
Who agreed with Josh? Jesus. But then we also have Triforce Heroes, Four Swords, Majora's Mask, and The Legend of Zelda Shrug. The Legend of Zelda Shrug of the Wild. Whatever that means.
I love that game.
Yeah, it's a great game. I loved it. Like that moment when Link just, shrugs. It gave me chills.
I know, it's so powerful.
So what did you choose for this?
I think I chose the Minish Cap, but don't
Yeah,
remember.
Minish Cap. I played Minish Cap last year on stream. It was pretty good. I mean, it helps that it was also made by Capcom.
Yes, and actually, I don't think the Oracle games were on this, but I would have chosen those for sure, because those games are amazing, especially if you play them together.
Yeah, I haven't actually finished those quite yet. I have them on my 3DS, I just haven't gotten around to going for it. But they're also Capcom games, so the more you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then speaking on sort of the music topic, because we've been on that sort of bender today for this episode, the next question was, which game has the best music? And it was a 3-way tie between Skyward Sword, Ocarina, and Wind Waker.
Yes, 2 people said that. Wait, this doesn't add up to... Wait, only 3 people responded to this question. That makes no sense. Okay.
Which did... Then one person said all of them.
That was me.
I
have no regrets.
Spirit Tracks and all of them, which is fair. I mean, Wind Waker, I think one of the most iconic pieces of that music was just the Great the Great Sea theme. And then I remember on stream doing that on the Great Sea, and I would just sort of just like act like I was running while I was doing it because it's a great running theme, which is kind of fun. So that score is a lot of fun just to dance around in your room like an idiot too. If you don't believe me, just check out our Twitch streams, because that's what I did a lot of. Next one is, what new forum boards and topics would you like to see? We got a few, which is pretty good.
Yeah, somebody said that they want a silliness board like the Hylia clan, except it doesn't disappear for months at a time. Again, I want to reiterate, like I think Anne said last episode, there is no such thing as the Hylia clan, so you all are delusional and you should get that checked out. Somebody else said a t-shirt design contest.
I am so down with this, by the way, because for those who don't know, we actually do have shirts. They are on the Yeti, and I would be totally game for this, and also to, like, whoever wins this contest, we'll choose it from, like, the leader team, and maybe we'll see what we can do of getting it actually into our Zelda Universe shop on the Yeti, which means people can buy the shirt that you make a design for. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. So you know what? That one actually could happen.
I'm going to talk to my team about that. Let's see what we can do about that. I like that one.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, I'd like to see more talk about tabletop games, maybe. Right now, all we have is the D&D Secrion, and that's a bit self-contained. I think they meant to say section.
Secrion sounds much more like...
Awesome. Much more
It sounds-
D&D-ish.
It does, which is very much on brand considering it's D&D. I mean, there's D&D, listen, D&D is a great board game, but there's a lot of great ones out there. There's Pandemic, there's Catan, Betrayal at House on the Hill is fantastic. What's your favorite board game?
Monopoly. Pokemon
What?
Monopoly. Gold and silver.
It could be worse, it could be the Fortnite Monopoly.
Of course, that's a thing.
Of course it's a thing and it's awful, but Monopoly? But, Eden, there's better board games out there that maybe don't tear families and friendships apart.
So yeah, actually I think you can talk about tabletop games and general gaming. It doesn't say general video gaming, but don't quote me on that, folks.
Yeah, talk to the mods, see what they say.
Yes, and another person whose name is me said the Temple of Knowledge, which I don't know if you were around back then. Well, you don't go on the forums, but you, listener, I don't know if you were around back then, but
Yes.
we used to have a forum called the Temple of Knowledge, and it was basically a homework help board, and the reason I answered with that is just because I wanted to sound old. We don't really need a homework help board, but it would be cool to have a homework help thread. I don't think we have that. If you need help with your homework, I'd love to help you. I like helping people.
And then our last question is, what race would you like to see expanded upon in future games? And I'm very happy about this answer. The top answers were Rito and Picori. And I'm hugely excited about that because I think the Rito are cool. And it's not because I happen to play a Rito in our RPG show on Twitch called Realms of the Wild, but I'm okay with this answer. I like a Rito.
The Rito are pretty cool, and I was very surprised to see them in Breath of the Wild showing up alongside their evolutionary ancestor, the Zora, but that's a different conversation.
I guess I could say that they were pretty fly.
It's not that funny.
But yeah, I'm cool. And then the Sheikah, the Korkiri, and the Kork are also pretty nice as well. So
those were some interesting questions. It would be
yeah,
nice to have some more people actually responding to the survey, but you know, it will be located in Community Central, so if you're on the forums, you can look out for it in there.
And if you're on Twitter or Discord, maybe it'll be there at some point. I don't know.
We'll see.
Stay tuned for future updates of things. And now, let's go talk about arguing about games.
I love that.
We love arguments, especially when it's about games with wolves and mirrors and
Imps.
hurting and goats.
Yes,
Lots of
the
goats. Yes, that's what we're alluding to. We have a fun little roundtable that is actually hosted by our lovely pal Peyton, aka Emperor P, where the topic on the table is Twilight Princess a good game or a bad game? On the good game side is Elias, and we have Randy on the bad game, where we talk about whether it's good, whether it's bad, and whether or not it's really a Wii game, because that's what it is.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Zelda Universe Roundtable. For those of you who don't know, this is its first week, and what the ZU Roundtable basically is, it is a kind of discussion, live discussion-ish thing over various different topics about the Zelda community. Tonight, or today, whenever you're watching this, we will be talking about Twilight Princess, a very controversial game if you are a die-hard, hardcore fan of the game. With me, I am Emperor P, also known as Peyton Garrett, and with me I have... Let them introduce themselves.
Hello. My name is Elias Thompson, the Twitch director at Zelda Universe, and avid lover of the best Wii game, Twilight Princess.
And this is Randy Marr, writer for Zelda Universe as well as a regular podcast contributor. And I'm here to talk about one of the most disappointing Zeldas.
Ooh, the tensions are already high. Alright, so we'll just jump straight into things. So, the first major thing I want to discuss is the art style of Twilight Princess. So what do you guys feel about the art style overall?
I mean, I liked it. It was, they went for a Zelda version of what they thought was dark and gritty at the time. It was it all lent itself to a lot of atmosphere. They used a lot of cell shading-y things to denote Twilight pixel stuff, but overall, I thought it was good for its time.
Did you think it fit the game well?
Yeah, I thought it fit the tone of the game pretty well. Yeah.
Alright, what about you, Randy? How did you feel about the graphics of the game?
Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I do think that for its time, it definitely looked pretty awesome on the Wii. The effects like the bloom lighting, when you compare it to the GameCube version, I think the Wii version's just leagues better. I know people have their own ins and outs on that kind of thing, but the thing that I usually kind of start to waver on is the character designs in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, I'll give you that. The character face textures in particular could have used some additional work.
I mean, you don't like Russell's really, really big forehead?
Hey, there's nothing wrong with big foreheads, all right?
Yeah. And the HD version, of course, came out like 5 years ago.
It sure did, and it didn't help.
Like that.
Didn't help either. Don't know why.
Really? You didn't think the HD version made it better? I liked the look of the HD version.
Overall, as a graphics, for sure. I'm talking about character textures in particular. It's like they just accentuated the flaws of the original.
Yeah.
You didn't have those kind of jaggies to distract you from the weird lips and bulging eyes.
Well, Link design looks great. And Midna and Zelda, Ganondorf,
right.
all of them are on point. But the NPCs.
On the topic of characters, did you like kind of not the little quest lines of the characters you kind of saw, with like Colin and with like Russell and Telma and all these other people? Like, did you kind of like seeing them kind of grow and evolve? And like kind of with some other unimportant characters like Uku and stuff as well.
Yeah, I wish we had seen more of all that. I don't know if it was a time constraint or fitting everything on a disc or what, but I feel like there was a lot more room to sort of dive into that little secret society they had going on.
Yeah. Do you think it helped contribute and make the world feel more connected, or kind of do you feel like it kind of just separated things, made it feel kind of small?
I don't think it made the world feel small. I mean, it made it seem like an actual more of a living world to me. The fact that other people were doing things while Link was doing his thing,
Yeah. And the heroes were definitely an interesting part. What about you, Randy? What do you think on the kind of Telma's little heroes she's kind of gathered?
I actually really liked Telma's little squad of folks and kind of like meeting up with them. I feel like they didn't really do anything once you found them other than point you like a signpost. So that was a little unfortunate. I kind of would like to have them kind of poking around with me. Kind of like in Wind Waker when you were taking the Guardians deep into these dungeons.
You see, that was just babysitting, really.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, let's be honest.
I mean, they...
Especially with Makar. Come on.
Both of them.
No, they could do it better. But I liked the idea that was there of like taking them with you and kind of having other people talk with you while you're delving into these dungeons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite parts of Twilight Princess is at the very end of the game, like when you're going to get the boss key and you see all these crazy enemies and then the heroes show up and they just obliterate them.
See that was cool. Don't get me wrong. I kind of wished that like like it sort of came out of left field for me too. You know, like it's like, oh yeah, I forgot you existed. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I think that was because we wish we could have seen more of them and be a little more involved with what they were doing, other than, oh yeah, there they are. Thanks, I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Except Russell a little bit had a little more going on, and
yeah.
Shad, although Shad was just pointing in a direction multiple times instead of once.
Yeah, Shad was a quitter. On to the next question.
Oh, okay.
Still on the topic of characters, this is a character that experiences much controversy, not only in the Zelda community, but within ZU itself. Do you think Ilya is a good fit as both a character and Link's love interest of the game?
Oh boy. Randy, you want to start this?
So I'll say I definitely don't dislike Ilya as much as a lot of people do. I nothing Ilya, and that may be worse. Like, she starts off really kind of prickly, and then it just sort of like forces you to assume that you're good friends, even though that's not how that interaction, those first couple interactions play out. Ultimately, I cared more about the other kids. Malo especially resonated well with me, but Ilya, I just didn't care one way or the other.
Yeah. For those who don't know, our own host and host of ZU News, Amanda Van Heil, is an avid Ilya hater. So that's one of the main reasons this question is appearing. So, Elias, your take?
Yeah, so I don't think she came off prickly in the beginning. A lot of people, I think, feel that way just because she gets angry at you for injuring your horse, which, yeah, I mean, she should, and then when she learns why, she, eases up like any responsible adult. Yeah, I don't know. Like, as a character, for most of the game, she's not a character because of the amnesia, right?
Yeah.
So she's...
Which you don't even have to cure, by the way.
She's just sort of a plot device. You do.
No.
Okay, unless you glitch, Peyton.
It's not a glitch.
Anyway.
It's not a glitch. You don't need to help Ilya. It is not a requirement in beating the game.
About Ilya.
All you need is to get access to the hidden village. Anyway.
Which you would do through glitching if you don't do it through Ilya.
Okay, no, that's...
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of neutral on her, like...
Yeah.
As from the character's perspective, like, she's obviously a childhood friend of Link and knows him well enough for him to help her restore her memory in the end. Yeah, I think she was mostly there as a plot device for sure.
Yeah.
And in regards to her being a love interest, like, let me just go on record right now and say that in 90% of Zelda games, there is no actual love interest. Like, Skyward Sword Zelda, yeah, okay, that's a little obvious. But aside from that, like, there's not really a lot going on. There's Link and Ilya are childhood friends for sure. There's definitely nothing going on with Zelda in that game. Zelda's, more of just a fixture. And then, Midna, that's not how their relationship is. But, yeah, like, it's just... I don't see her as a love interest. I, see her as a plot device.
Randy, your take?
Kind of the same. A platonic friend.
All right.
But I will say that if Amanda asks me directly, Ilya's great, and we should see more of her.
All right, next up on the list. How do you guys... We're going to talk about kind of the overall game now. Mainly the overworld. There's a lot of complaints on the internet about the overworld being empty.
Complaints on the internet? What? Are you sure?
I know, right? They'll find anything to complain about. But how do you guys feel about the overworld of Twilight Princess?
Personally, I do kind of feel that it's empty, and it's not that it isn't interesting. It's just there are entire, like, chunks of land that you would want literally anything to be in. And it's maybe like a couple moblins on Borback and half a brick wall. and that's all
Yeah,
that is.
I can definitely agree that West or East Hyrule Field, at least depending on the version you're playing, the big one where you fight King Boblin the first time is definitely a very empty area. Like, even like exploring for caverns, there's not much out there.
Yeah, with Zelda being a game about exploration, it kind of felt to me like that was just dead air that I had to run through to help load the next zone, and then that was it.
Yeah. Elias?
I sort of understand the sort of load the next zone in the first half of the game whenever like things are sectioned off by Twilight. But by the second half of the game where things are just really, item locked, dungeon item locked, I don't know. Like I don't think it was as empty as people remember it being. I mean, when you compare it to something like Breath of the Wild, right? That world is massive.
Yeah.
It has the advantage of having a lot more disk space and memory to work with, and they have learned from years and years of
Cartridge
stuff.
space, but yeah.
Right, sure. Unless it's the Wii U version.
Wait, Breath of the Wild has a Wii U version?
Breaking
What?
news.
And but if you look at stuff like, not a lot of people complain about how empty the overworld is in Ocarina of Time, but it's more empty in Ocarina of Time, I feel like. Granted, the overworld's smaller in Ocarina of Time for the same reasons. But I think there's more little hidden caves and stuff in Twilight Princess's overworld than there are in Ocarina of Time's, which makes sense considering it's about 4 times the size.
If I might point out, just so I'm on the same level, I also think Ocarina of Time's overworld is just awful.
It's pretty dead.
All right, we got to keep moving.
Well, and can I just say that I don't think that was a symptom of learning forward, because if you look at Link to the Past, the big Zelda game before Ocarina of Time, that was an overworld kind of full of life. And so I feel like the emptiness that happened was probably more from technical limitations than willingness to fill.
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree.
Okay. Next question. How do you guys feel about the bosses of the game? There's a lot of mixed opinions about this as well.
Some of them were cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bosses.
There were a lot of bosses.
I feel like my love of the bosses matches my love of the dungeons, in which there are some that are some of my absolute favorite in Zelda history, and the rest are just not remotely memorable to bad.
Now, are they not memorable because they just weren't good bosses, or are they not memorable because they were just too easy?
I wouldn't say...
Probably a little both.
Because that's a lot of complaints. Some just don't remember them because they're obscure, and some just don't remember them because they thought they were just way too easy.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. For me, it was more the sort of set pieces around them. For example, the first dungeon that you get to about 10 hours into the game, the boss there is a big, it's just a big Deku plant.
I have no clue what you're talking about. The last time I played Twilight Princess, I was in and out of that dungeon in an hour.
You get it,
so
you glitch.
I did glitch.
But at the same time, like Blizzetta, who was a character we kind of got to know throughout the dungeon, I actually kind of cared about her, and so that that boss, even if it was just
is that the monkey, the big monkey?
It's the big Yeti thing.
Listen, I don't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha. Sorry, I thought you were still talking about the Forest Temple. I was like, oh, did the monkey have a name?
That's Ook.
Yeah, no, the Snowhead Temple.
Yetta.
Oh, is it
Yetta's her
Yetta?
name.
Gotcha.
I thought it was Blizzetta. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Blizzetta's the boss, but she's technically
that's
Yetta.
right. That's why I was
she's
confused.
Blizzetta.
Okay. But I cared about that boss. Plus, it had a couple of cool mechanics. So even if it wasn't the hardest, there were things about it that made it fun and interesting to me. I can't even.
And I think.
Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, going to our point earlier about wanting more interaction with the NPCs, I think that was connected because you spent basically the whole dungeon interacting with her and her husband.
Yeah.
And
Once again, I don't know what you're talking about. Last time I played Twilight Princess, I didn't talk to Yetta or Yetta at all.
Similarly, like, I felt that the Temple of Time was my favorite dungeon, perhaps in all of Zelda, because it had all this like weird connected tissue throughout itself with like guiding the statues through it and kind of figuring out those puzzles. But it also tied.
Now that's a rare opinion right there.
I agree with him. That's my favorite dungeon in the game.
Really?
And it also like tied together like the, and let's be honest, loose at best narrative of the Legend of Zelda. Because when you know, Ocarina of Time, you're in the Temple of Time, and it's like, well, this is just a room where a guy gives me my medallion, and then I go through proper dungeons. And this kind of gave me this feeling of like, oh, there was something here all along. I don't know if that was even intentional, but that was what I felt when I was playing it.
I think that's what they were going for. It's very interesting. All right, we're running out of time, so we're going to hit our final question.
Oh, boy.
Because we were on the topic of Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess is often considered kind of like a sequel or a follow-up to Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time 2.
Yeah, that's what it's honestly called sometimes. So do you believe that statement, first off?
What, that it's a follow-up?
That it's like a sequel and stuff. Like, do you think it... Let me try to phrase it here. Do you think it lives up to Ocarina of Time,
okay.
I guess? That's the
I
phrase
was about to say, it is a sequel, and it did follow it, so...
Yes, I'm just bad at words.
Anyway. Yeah, actually. I mean, I think the reason Twilight Princess is my favorite game or Zelda game is because I think it took everything Ocarina of Time did and pioneered and stuff and just made all of that a little bit better.
This was still the early ages of the Zelda formula, or what it used to be.
Well, maybe in your eyes, but
that's true.
But yeah, I mean, there were some missteps with some of the things they tried new, but overall, I think the things it did, I just think it's a better Ocarina of Time.
I'll agree with that. You know, as much as Ocarina of Time is always heralded as the best Zelda, I think a lot of that is because it was the newest, coolest, shiniest Zelda. I think Twilight Princess is in just about every way a better game. That being said, I still put both of them below a lot of other Zeldas, including Skyward Sword. I said it.
Hey,
Why?
No worries. I am also a Skyward Sword supporter.
Hang on.
I love that game.
No. I want to address something here. Randy earlier said in the roundtable that he thinks Zelda is and should be all about exploration. And yet, I feel like Twilight Princess had more of that than Skyward Sword ever could.
So I'll agree with you that Skyward Sword did not have the most exploration because it didn't. I'll say Skyward Sword is the best version of the type of Zelda that Ocarina of Time started and just removed all the crap moving in between empty spaces in between and just filled it with other stuff.
Alrighty. Okay.
I would say
but that could be a whole nother discussion.
We'll leave the Skyward Sword discussion for a future date. And who knows, maybe at that time we'll have Randy and Elias come back and they can duke it out again. Because it feels like that debate's going to be a lot more heated than this one will be.
Yeah, I was about to say, we did not disagree as much as I thought we would.
It was honestly surprising how little you guys disagreed.
To just throw out one more negative opinion so people don't think I'm too positive.
Oh, God.
We're like at 20 minutes,
I think
guys.
the
Come on.
Ganondorf in Twilight Princess is the absolute worst Ganondorf. He didn't do anything. He looks terrible.
What?
He's just an awful design. I hate that he's been in Smash Brothers for the past 2 games. I'm very
my.
happy they're going back to the Ocarina of Time version.
Me.
And anyway, Wind Waker Ganondorf is the best one.
I think I just got stabbed in the heart.
He looks
Ouch.
the best. He was cool. He had
and his boss battle was the best.
Really good boss battle, and he should have been in it more.
Anyway, now that is the end of the roundtable segment. You can of course find me, Emperor P, here on the podcast, and Randy as well. He has his own little segment he does. But you cannot find Sir Elias Thompson on the podcast. So, Sir Elias Thompson, where can they find you?
You can find me on the Zelda Universe Twitch channel, Tuesday nights and every other Saturday morning. And anywhere on the internet if you Google Elias Thompson and filter out the Boardwalk Empire results.
Alrighty, that's all the time we have for today, and we will see
Later.
you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you to Emperor P and to Randy and Elias for that heated roundtable discussion.
We love arguing here. In this house, we appreciate the good argument about a good, maybe-ish game. What are your opinions about this? Do you like Twilight Princess?
Twilight Princess is the game that got me into the Zelda series, so yes, I like Twilight Princess. And this is...
Oh, okay, so it was like a 6 out of 10. Got it.
Well, there's this common conception that your first Zelda game is your favorite, but that is not true for me. My first was the Game Boy Advance port of A Link to the Past, and it was so difficult for me as a 7-year-old to play that game. And also, the night I got into the Dark World proper, I was so terrified of going to sleep. That sort of put a mark on my enjoyment of the game. I didn't actually have a nightmare about the Dark World that night, but I have had Dark World nightmares since.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow. Jeez.
Those games get to me.
All right, then.
But Twilight Princess, I don't even think was the second game I played. It was maybe the third. I inherited my brother's GameCube when he went to college a few years later and played Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time on the Master Quest disc. And
Did you play Master Quest?
No, I've still not played Master Quest. I'm terrified of playing Master Quest.
Same.
But Twilight Princess, for me, the story was unique, and the whole good versus evil thing was very well done, I think. And also, just the atmosphere of the game was awesome. And I'm also a huge fan of that soundtrack. I think I may have mentioned Twilight Symphony before. I'm one of the proud owners of a physical copy of Twilight Symphony, and I recently listened to it again and cried. So, Twilight Princess has a very, very special place in my heart, and it is tied for top either 2 or 3 Zelda games. But I understand people's complaints about it. It is very much sort of an embellished, fancy rehashing of Ocarina of Time. It is easier overall than a lot of the other games. But I just love the characters, and I love the atmosphere, and I love the music. So that's my take on Twilight Princess. How about yours, Alex?
So I actually have a very similar story. So I got into Zelda in general pretty late. So like I started playing Zelda in 2010. I started playing it with the NES original. I remember specifically because I was on Facebook going through my timeline of the past, which is never a good idea. And I apparently had posted how many times I died playing that original playthrough, which was like 65 times.
Oh, it's not
bad. That was fun. It's not bad. But I then went from there and did A Link to the Past and Ocarina. I got into Twilight Princess later. I actually finished the game for the first time in 2016. But I have a reason for it. I'm very badly arachnophobic.
Oh, yeah. I understand. I got arachnophobia from that game. Like, I am legitimately afraid of spiders because of the Temple of Time.
See, Temple of Time wasn't the worst part. The fucking Skulltulas.
Oh.
Those goddamn Skulltulas. Like, I couldn't do that. Because, like, I was terrified of Armagoma. And the way I got around doing it when I played HD was to play Muffet's theme from Undertale over everything. And that made things easier. But it's also, I expected that battle to play out like the Zelda tech demo on the Wii U, and it didn't. And then it was just like, lasers! And I'm just like, oh. Okay. But the problem is, which is for me, was the Skulltulas, because it's like, I'm fine when the Skulltulas are just like, down, and up, down, and up, and I'm like, okay, bye. But in Twilight Princess, they're on my plane. Like, they can walk.
Oh,
They can chase me. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? Nope, I'm good, dog. No. So, yeah, it took me a good, like, 5 or 6 years before I finally got confident enough to play it. And really what I do during those segments is that I just look away, I button mash A, and then I go back. And I do that through most of the games where the Skulltulas are. Until I get the bomb arrows, and then I just go in and bomb the shit out of them.
Fair enough, that works. Yeah,
and then I go through it.
That works.
Yeah. But, like, as a game, like, my favorite game for Zelda it's weird because it's like, it depends on what I've played most recently. That's like, yeah, this is my favorite Zelda game. Like, I've been playing a lot of Ocarina of Time recently, and so I'm like, yeah, Ocarina of Time's a really solid game. But we're recording our host commentary for this on November 4th. The November 5th, I am streaming it on my Twitch show for Zelda Universe. So, if you're watching this around the time of release, you can maybe watch me flail around Twilight Princess.
Woo! That's what I literally do around... For me, my arachnophobia came from all of the baby gomas, sort of the sliminess and swarming around in numbers.
I mean, that was bad too, but the Skulltulas got me way worse. But I've also had arachnophobia for much longer.
I understand. So my strategy was playing on the Wii. I would just look away and flail my arms around and hope they'd be gone by the time I turned back.
I mean, that also makes sense. That's kind of what I did, but I played on Wii U. But yeah, it's a good game.
Indeed.
So, indubitably. But now that we have that, let us go transition into reading some of the feedback that we got from those who listened to our first podcast.
Yes, so we've gotten 2 pieces of feedback that were good. One of them is very long, and we will not be reading the whole thing here. That one is from a ZU forum veteran named Lefty, or Stenjamin, but Lefty, and basically gave us a real-time commentary on things he was hearing. So Lefty came back to ZU for a moment, just happened to be around the same time that we revived the podcast, and he says this: "The old ZU podcast was such a fun time for me. I remember its initial planning and lead up to the first episodes. I remember always wanting to submit a segment or be more a part of this show in general because it was something that hella excited me." So, this is sort of a way of being part of it. We're reading your feedback on air, but it's nice to hear from somebody who's around back in ye old days.
Yep, that being said, I am going to take you to task on your opinions on the Champions rankings. I strongly would disagree with Mifa being number 1. Rivali all the way. So...
You're just biased when it comes to Rito. Then again, Rivali was my favorite too, but...
Ha! See? Listen!
So I just contradicted myself.
I have had fights on this. Listen, at me, buddy. I will take you to task on that. Because, ooh boy. Like, Rivali is great. Actually, Mifa's the one champion I think I enjoyed the least.
Oh,
so
I liked all of them.
I liked all of them, but Mifa was probably the lowest on the list.
Oh. I wasn't a fan of Daruk, but...
I like Daruk a little bit more, but like, Rivali and Urbosa are just like, yes! But Urbosa reminded me of Meg from Hercules, the Disney movie, so I'm also game.
Okay, well, whatever floats your boat. Alright, so thanks for that very detailed feedback. It was very useful. We also got a much shorter piece of feedback from Backset Chan, or Backset, on the forums, because we have a feedback thread on the forums for the podcast. It is located in the help and feedback board in the Sightly section. Backset Chan said, "It's good, but it's a bit quiet. I have to turn up my volume high in order to hear it, but otherwise it's awesome.
Yay, we did it.
I feel that. I have this pet peeve where I'm be listening to something and somebody's volume will be much louder than somebody else's, and it's just very frustrating. It's a little bit hard to remedy that, but our editor, Kelly, is good at what she does. She tries her best to make things not too loud, not too soft, relatively equal, but sometimes there's just not a lot that can be done. But we appreciate the feedback. That's something that I don't think people bring up enough. So thank you, Backset Chan.
Thank you for all the cool feedback, friends. Remember, you can send us feedback all the time.
Alright, well, thank you two for that feedback. I like to think that we took some of it into account for this episode, but we will also take it into account in the future. If you have feedback for us, then you can send it in via email at podcast@zeldauniverse.net, or you can submit it on the forums in the ZUCast feedback thread in Help and Feedback. And I guess you could also leave us feedback on Twitter or Facebook, and somebody will get that to us.
Hashtag ZUCast on Twitter. Let's do that.
That works.
Send us your feedback through electronic mailings or like post of the Twitter variety or however you feel. Just remember, we don't accept carrier pigeons, but we do accept ravens. So if you're in Westeros, send us a raven.
Is that a Game of Thrones reference?
That is a Game of Thrones reference.
All
I've been on withdrawal for the last season.
Okay, well, at least I got that far.
Yay!
And if you want to record a piece of audio feedback, feel free. Alright, so that is it for this episode of the ZUCast.
Yeah, it was super fun. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed and were entertained by all the fun things that we've been talking about and or reacting to.
Yes, and don't forget to give us feedback. Don't forget to listen to the next episode. Don't forget to listen to the previous episode if you missed that. We are on iTunes. We are on Google Play. We are on Stitcher. And,
YouTube! We're also on the tubes of you.
Oh yes, we are also on YouTube.
So you could go listen to all of those things. Hey, listen. Just listen to the podcast. You know, just do that. And then make sure you follow us on the social medias.
Yes, do you want to give the addresses for that?
Yeah, so you can check us out at Zelda Universe TV on YouTube and Instagram and Twitch. You can find us at Zelda Universe on Twitter and Facebook and Tumblr and also on Patreon. We're also at ZeldaUniverse.net, but you probably already knew that because we've already been talking about it. And we're also on Discord, so discord.gg/Zelda. For that as well. So there's a cool ton of different places that you can hang out with us over at Zelda Universe.
Yes, and you should join us.
Yes, and then
especially on the forums, but elsewhere too.
And also on Twitch. And then you can also maybe go follow all the people involved on the episode, like Eden and me. So
I don't have. Well, actually, I have a Tumblr. That's Eslo Spirit.
Yes,
EZLOSPIRT, but.
Go do that, and then you can follow me on the Twitch at Luca_Starks, and also on the Twitter, and also do merch. So, and I'm also going to be streaming. I also stream on Monday nights for CU with a show called Games Done Poorly, and then I'm on Realms of the Wild every other week, every other Saturday morning. So, if you're around and you thought my voice wasn't annoying enough, and you're like, oh boy, I want to hear more of that voice. Well, there you go. Gave you options. You're welcome. Maybe.
That sounds like a fun time.
Sounds like a grand old time.
Alrighty, so that is the end.
That's what she wrote. So.
See you next time.
Goodbye.
So, I can't use that. I can't say see you next time because I can't see people.
Thank you for checking out another exciting episode of the ZUCast. This wouldn't have been possible without all of the fine people I'm about to list off. This episode was hosted by Alex Rosenberg and Eden Biskin. I am the Zelda Ann, and I brought you up to speed on the latest content from Zelda Universe and ZU Updates. Amanda Van Heil reflected on the genius and beauty of the Clock Town theme and its 3 arrangements. Hebron Hakobo ranked his favorite boss battle themes in Zelda series. Realm Wings, or just Realm for short, reported the community news. Peyton Garrett, our very own Emperor P, moderated today's roundtable discussion on Twilight Princess. Very special thanks to ZUBC alumni Hombre de Mundo and Humulos for humoring Eden and actually recording a new Zelda Theorizing segment for us. Today's roundtable panelists were Zelda Universe Twitch director Elias Thompson and ZU news writer and ZUcast segment host Randy Marr. Behind the scenes, our executive producer is Eden Biskin, while our consulting producer and sir not appearing in this episode is Cody Davies. Kelly Timmerman is our head editor, who makes us all sound less terrible. Pedro Bucci manages public relations for the ZUBC on the Zelda Universe forums, while Mary Stowe is our voice on ZU's Facebook page. Megan Negrelli gets the word out beyond the confines of ZU. Our technical advisor is Joshua Lindquist, who was instrumental in getting our previous episode onto your device. Finally, we always appreciate the enthusiasm of our production assistant, Realm Wings. The ZUcast is a production of the ZUBC. We want to hear from you, especially about what you thought of this episode and the ZUcast in general. Send in your feedback to podcast@zeldauniverse.net. Post it on the ZU forums in the ZUcast feedback and suggestions thread within the help and feedback board. Mention us on Twitter @Zelda Universe, or leave a comment on our Facebook page, also @Zelda Universe. Feel free to send your feedback as audio too. We might play it in our next episode. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Oh yeah, next time is our Ocarina of Time 20th anniversary episode. Let's get excited. Bye for now.
But we've got some fun things in store for you today. Starting off with a fun little topic of about. Yep, there we go. Here we go.
Here we go. It begins.
It begins. All of the bloopers.
And yeah. And what?
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's okay, because guess what? Zelda Ann's got you covered with some cool ZU updates about all the cool things that we've been doing. Because, I don't know if y'all know this, but, there's a lot of stuff that we do here at Zelda Universe, and sometimes it's good to have just like a, hey, here's what we're doing. So,
but what about the
good to see that.
What about the last segment? We
didn't
say anything about it. We just said thank you.
Let's go back. Sorry, rewind. I was gonna do the from Wayne's World, but that works too. Yeah. Like, because pretty much when I'm there, I'm running around, prepping for panel. Oop, hello.
Hi. That wasn't me.
No, that was me. Turn that off. Get out of here, Apple Watch. But, Windows, stop annoying me. How likely are you to recommend this Windows PC to a friend or colleague? Not this one, because it's mine. I built it. Get out of here. 5.
Windows is awful.
I built the thing. You may contact me for more details. No.
Some superb feedback.
Thanks, Microsoft. I appreciate you. Ish. What? What? Whomst? Who? What? Whomst? What? These are all bloopers, right?
Lach.
What?
Echad. Stein. Shalosh.
What? Nani? Thank you so much, Hebron, for the lovely interest and very there. I'm trying that again. Take 2.
He will be telling us the latest happenings and shebangs that are going. Oh, wow.
Shebang, bang, da da da, shimove. God, I just dated myself so hard with that. Jesus
That's
Christ.
okay. I was face palming while you were saying that. So
Hey, you know what? At least it was entertaining. For blooper reel.
woo!
Blooper reel. 2018. Bow, 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 bow.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. Turnout for October was a little bit not a lot of people.
Nice words.
I almost said was not Taksan, which is Japanese.
We also have a cool new thing. So we've got some Zelda Universe by the numbers.
This isn't new. This was also in last episode. Did you listen? Oh. Did you listen to the last episode?
I did. I just didn't get to that part.
Okay.
I attempted. I got to a point, and then I had other things. Oh. I need to listen to the tail end. I've gotten to a decent amount of it, though. I just missed that part.
Okay.
So let's go to something else here. So one of the first ones that was question. I
feel that. I have to feel that. Did I just say I have to feel that?
I don't know. Post?
Yep. Feel free. That would be a cool.
That would be a cool.
That would be a cool.
We're gonna say that would be cool. That would be a cool.
Yes,
so
it
do
would.
the thing. Please do the thing.
Do the thing, Julie.
Do things. We command you to do them.
Julie, do the thing. I mean, we haven't outroed yet, so I'm still rolling. You thought we were done? Not quite. Who knows? I don't know where I was going with that, but who knows?